So I'm just over here thinking about human relationships, and I was out with a friend the other day, right? And we had a good time. We hung out for like a couple of hours, and maybe the next day or so, because in my current season of life, that's kind of a new thing for me. Like, I have not hung out with a person like that in a long time. And so it very much stood out as something that was out of the norm for me. And I was reflecting on it like a couple of days later or something. And I was like, do I want more of this? And I'm like, well, kind of. It's kind of nice. But this is what I believe the Lord has been showing me. He's like it is so good for God to be the one who is driving your life. Because it's not the best thing to be entertained all the time. Like, I think what made that outing with my friend nice is that it doesn't happen all the time. That I don't have a calendar full of things to do to entertain myself and people to call when I'm feeling whatever. I think it's actually really good. It's been good for me for that to be of moderation. And now I'm in this place where I don't need it. And so I think that's what made it more enjoyable for me. Because when you don't need something to be a certain way, when there's not this expectation that is on it, I think you're more open to having a good time. And you're more open, like I was more open to just being myself in that thing. Like, it was an outing with someone that if I were to look back, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, because I've known this person for quite some time, so they've known me through quite a lot of change and changes with each other or whatever. I would be like, there's no way we would have that type of outing. But we did, and it was fun, and it was nice, and it was enough. But I was like, do I want this every day? I'm like, well, it wouldn't be what it was if I had this every day. And I think this is what makes like God a really good parent, is that we think that like something is missing if we're not entertained all the time. We think that something is missing if we're not surrounded by friends, family that lifts us up every time we're feeling down or something. But I think we actually have to go through these uncomfortable, dark places to actually grow. In growing, you were set free. And when you were set free, you're able to actually enjoy these things that are given to you. If I needed that, because this is what I used to have a lot of. It's like you have these like drinking buddies. And it can only go so far with that, because it seems to be just people that have agreed they don't want to be alone. And there's the common interest of drinking. You take away the common interest of drinking, there's not really much left. And I've found that to be a lot of relationships. It doesn't have to be just the drinking, but it is people that don't know how to be alone. And by all means, I'm not telling you need to go figure it out. This is where I believe God is working in your life before you even know it, right? Where you belong to Him, He knows already what is best for you. So when you find yourself disappointed, like I've found myself disappointed, when you find yourself heartbroken because life didn't go the way that you thought it would, like I have, and I have experienced that heartbreak, and I've walked through that darkness, and I've experienced that pain, and things have gotten really dry and really, really small. I have an outing like I had the other day, and I find that it wasn't what we were doing. It was seeing myself in a new way. And in that way, I was able to actually enjoy the person without feeling like I have to change them or change me, right? It was just fine. It was fine in a way it could never be fine before. Whenever I needed that, whenever I felt so bad to be alone, and I was like, I got to go be around people. But it was always illegitimate, because I was like trying to fit in with people so that I didn't have to be alone, right? And I think we're kind of sold this thing in society. I don't know if it's just in America or something, but it's like we always have to be entertained all the time and always have someone to call and always have something to do. I'm even watching shows or whatever, and it's like everyone, like these kids have to be entertained all the time. It's like they go and they spend the weekend with dad and he has like all of these things planned. And I'm just like, damn, dude, is this shit just like how it's supposed to be all the time? Like no one's supposed to have like down periods. And I'm glad that God thinks in a way that is higher than our way, where he doesn't look at downtime as something that is missing or lacking. And he seems to look at moderation as something that is required for growth. If I were to be entertained all the time, I would never go anywhere. If I were to be entertained all the time and have, time every single day where I hang out with somebody, I just really wouldn't have much of a life besides that. And so then what are we talking about? What makes it actually good if it is all the time? I feel like the Lord is just like, what makes going to the beach a fun thing is you don't go to the beach every day. Right? It's actually good for you to not go to the beach. The times when you are not going to the beach is making going to the beach, when you go to the beach, that much more going to the beach. Right? And that seems to be where God the Father knows what is best for us. And I don't think that I can live with a person right now, most people, because there seems to be like something that is just off with that. Because I don't need to be entertained like I used to. I'm not afraid of being alone anymore. And that's not a self-flex. That's a God being a really good God in my life. That's a parent knowing for me what I need before I know what I need. And having to go through a lot of confusion and heartbreak and fear of being alone to actually be like, oh, you know what? You always knew what was up. Like, you didn't want me to survive on a diet of cheap thrills, entertained all the time, but never really going anywhere. Being entertained all the time, always someone to call, always something to do, never time to be alone or think, right, outside of those things. It's very surface level. But God is good in this way where he will take you beyond that, which looks like it'll be like a scary place, a dry place, a lack place. But I don't think he intends to keep you there. I think that he intends to, with this place, increase the quality of your life. The quality of my life is being increased. It has been increased because it is not a diet of cheap thrills. It's not one intoxicating thing to the next intoxicating thing. And this is what I've found to be with most of my relationships. It's like this buzz. And you kind of think of it when you have like a new romance or something. But then that romance doesn't stay and it fades. And then usually, like, I'm kind of cynical, I guess, when it comes to relationships. There has to be something more than the intoxication of the initial, affection thing. When that fades, what's real is what's real, and it's right there. And so, like, once that wears off, you can be like, oh, this is not what I thought it would be. And I think a lot of people bounce back and forth between people because that initial buzz wears off. And what I'm tired of, and this is what I'm looking to God to do in my life, is I don't want to live on a diet of cheap thrills. I don't want to live being intoxicated temporarily only to sober up and be like, oh, okay, now that I'm sobered up, I have to like manage this or make sure that I'm always buzzing with this person, always buzzing with myself. Like, I need to feel good all the time. It's like, no, you don't need to feel good all the time. It is good that I don't feel good all the time. That would be unhealthy, I think. But to have joy all the time, I think that's like something that God will give you. But it doesn't mean that you feel happy all the time. It means you have something greater than the feeling of happiness and sadness, because you've been taken deeper beyond the surface of cheap thrills and being like you have to be entertained all the time and into something more. I always thought I had to fit into everybody's paradigm, everybody's puzzle. And I did that. And the quality in which I was living and having my being with other people was very, very surface level and low. And I wasn't able to really enjoy being with them or with myself. And I find that God takes me to the lack place. And he's like, I'm going to bring you back to the beach at the right time so that you can actually enjoy the beach.